Good morning, everyone. My name's Gem, and I am your host today of our FreeAgent webinar, New Tax Year, Kickstart Digital Habits to Prepare for MTD. Welcome. It would be great to hear where you're joining us from today. You can see you've got a few widgets on your screen on our platform here. This is On24, and there should be an attendee chat box where you can go in and let us know where you're joining from, what you're excited to hear about today. You will also see a Q&A box, and that will be a great place for you to go to if you've got any specific questions about any of the content that we cover today in the webinar. I appreciate we've got quite a full attendee list today, but I'm just going to go ahead and get started with some housekeeping first of all. So, as I say, welcome to our webinar today. Today's session is going to be recorded, so if you have to dip out early or whatever, then that's not a problem. You will be able to watch it kind of on demand on our practice portal. As I've already mentioned, we do have a Q&A box. We see that questions that tend to come up through the attendee chat box tend to get a little bit lost in all the chatter, which is absolutely fine. That's why we've got the Q&A box there. So if you've got any specific questions, please head there and let us know. Can't cover them during the webinar, I'll revisit them at the end if I can. Please keep the chat positive and respectful. We've had HMRC on these webinars a few times and people kind of see it as a bit of a chance to have a go at people, and we don't want that. It's a really relaxed environment here at FreeAgent and everyone's here to learn. So just please keep the chat positive and respectful. We're all here to find out something new today, hopefully. And there will be some polls and follow-up opportunities as well. So the polls will come onto your screen. You can select the poll directly on the slide. And if you would like us to follow up, there will be plenty of opportunity to get us to get in touch with you. Cool. So I can see lots of people joining us from London, Scotland, Nottingham, even one person from Bulgaria, which is great. So lovely to see you all. Thanks so much for joining us today. Just going to give a quick overview of FreeAgent. I'm sure that you are all aware of who we are and what we do, but just in case you are not, FreeAgent is a bookkeeping software that is created for kind of the smaller end of your SME clients, but really suitable for medium-sized clients as well nowadays. We're really feature-rich software. We've got landlord licenses, limited company licenses. Of course, you can file through our software for MTD for VAT, as well as self-assessment and that kind of thing as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we are owned by NatWest. That means anyone who's banking with NatWest gets FreeAgent for free. There are some optional add-ons that may be applicable, but you can get it for free with NatWest, which is always great because they look after about 26% of the business banking in the UK. And if you would like us to get in touch with you, then you can go ahead and answer our poll just now. So if you're an accountant or bookkeeper and you want us to get in touch, then please go ahead and click yes. I'll leave that up for a few minutes. Then once all of that is out of the way, we'll get on to the introductions. And I'll just give that a little bit longer. Good morning, everyone who's joining us. Yeah, if you've not let us know where you're joining us from, please do. It's always lovely to see where people are coming from. Nice to see some Scottish people as well, because we are actually based in Edinburgh, if you didn't know already, though I'm not in Edinburgh today, I'm in London. Cool. So going to close that poll off now and we'll get on to intros. So my name's Gem. I am the Practice Partnerships Consultant here at FreeAgent, and I look after all things integrations mainly at the moment. So really we're trying to make sure that FreeAgent product is as well integrated into other softwares as possible. I also do a bit of thought leadership and things like this, hosting webinars, etc. We are joined by Jon Martingale today, who's our Head of Product Management here at FreeAgent. Jon, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, it's Jon here. As you've already said, I'm the Head of Product Management at FreeAgent. I'm leading on the MTD for Income Tax project for FreeAgent. And I realised earlier today that I've been working on MTD for exactly 10 years, because it was 10 years ago today that George Osborne made the first announcement about MTD in the spring budget or spring statement at the time. So yeah, that's me.
I don't want to make you feel old and tell you what I was doing 10 years ago, John, so we'll leave it there.
Yeah, please don't. I'm sure it was far more fascinating than watching George Osborne stood at the box. But anyway.
And Andy, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself for us as well, the director of Abacus Jack here?
Thanks, Jamie. Morning, everybody. Andy Thomas here. So I head up a small team of accountants at Abacus Jack. We're a small practice based in Newcastle up in the northeast. And typically our clients are small business owners, so very much kind of sole traders, partnerships, small limited companies. We've been a partner with FreeAgent for about the last 8-9 years, and we use it heavily for our client base, and therefore, very, very much kind of geared up to what our clients' needs and the way they run their business. So we're big fans of FreeAgent, and hopefully we can share some of our kind of insight today and how the software helps our client base.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you so much. And Stephen, last but not least, the director of Galloways. Are you happy to go ahead and introduce yourself for us?
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, hi, I'm Steve. I am the director of personal tax here at Galloways in Horsham. We have a few branches over West Sussex mainly. And yes, we deal with small to medium-sized clients all the way up to audits. My focus is more on the personal tax side. So dealing with your sole traders, partnerships, your landlords, and anybody who needs to file a personal tax return, basically. So yeah, gearing up now for MTD for all of those people who are suddenly going to have to jump in when they have not done anything quarterly before.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's very nice insight, and good to have so many experienced people here on this webinar to give us a little bit of insight on how to get your practice ready for MTD. So before we get into live discussion, I am going to kick off with a poll. I'd just like to get a bit of a temperature check from our audience today. Is your practice ready for making tax digital? I don't know if you guys, our speakers, want to share. Stephen and Andy, what do you feel? Are you guys ready? I would hope so, seeing as you're here today, but how ready are we feeling for making tax digital?
I think we are partly ready, but there is still a lot to do. So yeah, I'd be lying if I said we were absolutely fully ready to go. I think like a lot of us, we're probably also slightly nervous about decisions HMRC might make, given their history with these big projects. But yeah, the biggest challenge I think for us is, and we'll talk about this, but it's the communication to clients, the client engagement, and the education to clients. I think that's far greater than the actual practical side of it in terms of the the submissions and the accounting side of it. We can deal with that, but the communication and the engagement is going to be where it's hard.
Yeah, makes sense. And Stephen, what do you think? Whilst I let that poll run, are you guys ready for making tax digital?
I think we are the same. We are partly ready. Again, I'm not. We've been here before, haven't we? And HMRC have decided that they're not ready, so we've had to put it back again. So yeah, I think we've been partly ready for a few years since they sort of moved the goalposts. But yeah, I think now we're gearing up more. We're running our client list, finding out who we need to be in contact with, and making sure that they are aware. I did actually hear on the radio HMRC doing some adverts.
Really?
So that was quite refreshing. Not leaving it just to the accountants to make everyone aware.
Makes sense. Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to share those results. I think not surprising to see that the majority of people are not feeling ready for making tax digital. And I'm sure that's for a variety of reasons. But even like both of you are saying, I mean, we've got you on our webinar today and you're saying, you're feeling partly ready. I don't think that's a surprise, is it? We've still got a little bit of time, but now is the time to be starting to get those habits into gear so that we can make the most of it for sure. And I'm just curious to see what everyone feels is the kind of biggest challenge. Oh, sorry, car going past. Biggest challenge that we're facing for MTD. John, what do you think about kind of the challenges that we're trying to conquer in FreeAgent and make easier for accountants and bookkeepers. Any insight into that at all?
Yeah, good question. I think to pick on Steve's point, one of the challenges we're seeing at the moment is just around that skepticism still around, is MTD for income tax really going to happen, and sort of overcoming that. But rest assured, we're working closely with HMRC, and from everything that we're seeing, then I absolutely am 100% confident that from April 2026, it will go ahead. And then beyond that, I think, yeah, it's just this case of building awareness, helping practices and their clients potentially change behaviours to adopt the new process, and yeah, being there, I guess, as a guiding hand through that process, some of which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more today.
Absolutely. So yeah, and I think in terms of the biggest challenge, we can see that there's a big mixture there, but time, client engagement is all really hard. Jon, you've just spoken about that kind of changing of client behaviours. I mean, we know from a product perspective that getting people to use tools in the right way can be a really big challenge, but also, you know, this is big behavioural change for a lot of clients out there, and we are going to be there to support you through it. So really great insight, lovely to see. Thank you all so much for taking part. We're going to get into the kind of live discussion today now. So when we're thinking about making tax digital for income tax, if you're not already aware, this is going to be similar to making tax digital for VAT. However, it's going to apply to those who have an income of more than £30,000 a year, so self-employed business owners and landlords. They will be required to do quarterly submissions to HMRC under this new scheme. Hope I've got all of that right. Do you know what? It's been a while since I've had to talk about making tax digital, because I don't talk to accountants as much as I do kind of other software providers anymore. So that's the general gist of it. So I would love to hear a little bit about how that MTD for IT is going to impact practices, and you know, what are the kind of fundamentals that we need to have in place as early as possible? Stephen, I'll come to you first. Any insights there onto what those kind of fundamental processes are to have in place to make sure that you're going through this easily?
I think the first thing you need to do is be aware of the clients that it's going to affect. I think that's the first thing, that you need to start planning, and you need to know the number of clients you need, because obviously if you've got 6,000 clients, if you're a large practice, you've got 6,000 clients that are affected, you've got to start earlier than if you're a smaller practice and you've only got a handful, because it takes time to get the clients. You've got to contact them, try and get their buy-in. So I think that the first thing you do is identify the number of people that you have. And then obviously you need a solution to roll out to them. And that's where FreeAgent can come in and make it as easy as possible to get people who have traditionally either used an Excel spreadsheet or just given you a load of paperwork at the end of the year, have suddenly got to start doing the stuff quarterly. So I think it's educating them on training as well, getting the stuff done on time, and moving it forward quarterly rather than just annually.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Kind of like a people approach as well as a processes approach, I guess, is going to be a really nice pairing here. And Andy, I know you have some insight over what is a good way to approach your tech stack when you've got MTD coming in. Any insights there into what the kind of fundamentals are there to be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there's the people and process element, and then the technology is kind of the third element, as you rightly say. So when clients come to us as their accountants, they want solutions. You know, they want to focus on running their business, and they want us to focus on keeping them compliant and making them aware of their deadlines and their compliance obligations. That's our job. So the tech element will really become vital in achieving this. So systems like FreeAgent are going to be instrumental to help clients, you know, with those submissions. When this happened for VAT a number of years ago, the big change was that you had to now start using software. So if clients are not already on software, then we've basically got 12 months now to start that process, and recommending solutions, recommending FreeAgent as a platform for them to manage their accounts, helping them understand that actually this should make life easier, not more difficult. And I often say to clients, one of our roles as your accountant is effectively pain relief, isn't it? We are removing the burden and the pain of dealing with compliance rules away from them. And so FreeAgent is part of that solution. It's pain relief. It's getting your processes digital and getting used to how that works, and letting it effectively do its job. And as I'm sure Mark will, John will explain, the solution is there to help you run your business in a more efficient and effective way with the guidance of your accountant. The getting in place that kind of simple element of technology is going to be really important.
Yeah, absolutely. John, any insights into that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've always recognised, Andy and Steve have said, and the audience today have flagged up in the poll, there are lots of challenges around adopting Making Tax Digital for income tax. And so I see it as FreeAgent's responsibility to deliver the software and make that as good a quality as possible, make it effective. And then that way, that's one less thing that accountants and their clients need to concern themselves with. And so we put a lot of time and effort into ensuring that we have the technical side of things ready to do the submissions, but also as well lots of time in testing to make sure that the workflows and processes that we build within FreeAgent to make this effective and efficient are in place too. And it's been great this year. This tax year, we've already been involved in the HMRC pilot. So we've got accountants and their clients already submitting quarterly updates. And for the new tax year, we'll be opening up that pilot to more accountants as well. So maybe some of the people on this webinar today will want to sign up and get involved so that they can begin to adapt and adopt to the new technology and then help build that into their processes and everything else that we've just talked about now.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to mention the beta, so I'm glad that you did. I was speaking to quite a few accountants this week at Festival of Accountants and Bookkeepers, and I do think that the beta is a really good opportunity for you it is like a trial run, isn't it? Because I know that you've said this to me before, John, but you can't buy everything. There's lots of great tech out there and you have to be selective. So this is a really good way of seeing what works for you. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah. I agree. It's a really, really good opportunity to do that. And also as well, during the pilot program, there isn't this sort of mandation. So the rules and the requirements are a little bit more lax. So it means that you and your client can also sort of work through any teething problems. If you miss a deadline by a day or two, it's not going to be impacted by that. So it's a really good opportunity to put in place your processes, figure them out. As we all know, a process normally doesn't work quite as well as we thought it would do in theory. So we can iron out those creases, or you can iron out those creases, and then make sure by April 2026, everything is in place, running smoothly, and then you're ready to go with the clients that have got turnover over £50,000.
Absolutely. And Stephen and Andy, just keen to get your view on those kind of teething problems, working those things out. You're not going to be doing all these submissions yourself. You do work with teams. So how are you approaching that kind of team engagement? And I'll come to you first, Andy. Any insight into how you're getting your team kind of to buy into the project?
Yeah, I think, I have a small team. There's just 6 of us here. So that in itself makes some things a bit easier in terms of our processes and communication. But really the message to the team is to identify those clients that are going to need a little bit more hand-holding. That might be clients that are still quite used to working on paper, for example. So they're still kind of used to dropping off their records, the old-fashioned approach. We don't have a huge number of clients that fall into that bracket, but we do nonetheless have some. So it's about identifying those and giving them as much opportunity as possible to slightly change the way they're working. So introduce solutions. Again, it's all about solutions. So how can we help them move to digital bookkeeping? To give an example, some clients will have where we do have them on FreeAgent, but they don't necessarily use FreeAgent. I I suspect Stephen probably in the same position, where we will keep their records digitally for them, but actually they're probably not that aware that that's going on in the background. They're still working on paper, they're still submitting paper. So we want to try and kind of educate those clients into moving away from that and using the system that's effectively already there for them. So I'll be working with the team to help them engage with those clients, and it's about having as much of a sort of standardized process as possible so that every client fits the process. What are we going to be asking for? When are we going to be asking for it? What format do we want it in? What works best for them? What's going to make life easier? It's not just about the core system in terms of FreeAgent. It's about what else the client can use to make their life easier. So, it could be things like auto entry, it could be smart capture, all those kind of little tools that can help with record keeping.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really helpful. And it is a big change of mindset, not only for your clients, but for your team as well. And it's kind of changing from, it's changing whole behavior. So how are you approaching that kind of communication as well, Stephen? Any advice there at all for people out there in a similar situation?
I mean, I think accountants generally are helpful people. We try to provide solutions. That's what your job is, to find the best solution for your client. So I think I'm finding the staff buy into it is not the hard part. I think the staff are kind of generally helpful. They want to make things happen. They want to make things easier. I talk to the guys here, and they have already identified some of the clients themselves where they know people are going to struggle, and they're the ones they're going to be targeting first. And where you're using FreeAgent in the background for the clients because it just makes your life easier as an accountant. I mean, you can quite easily then show them what you've already got in place. And I think it's a nice, easy platform to use. So once they get to grips with it, I think it will be fine. I had a client come in, this wasn't for this was for his VAT submissions, but I spent an hour just running through the main parts with him. And he went from saying to me, "Oh, I can't use tech, I'm just a technophobe," to actually going out saying, "Oh, this is actually going to make my life a heck of a lot easier. You mean I don't need the spreadsheet and I don't need to do invoicing?" And it's surprising how clients and staff will buy into it if you're selling them something that saves them time, because that's what it's all down to. If you're trading, you don't want to spend an hour or two doing admin on a weekend if you can save it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And that's where software is a really nice kind of middleman between HMRC and the client, right? And I know that, FreeAgent, for example, is really easy to use. But we do have, that kind of relationship with accountants and bookkeepers, as well as with your clients, that's hopefully really trusted, that makes it all a little bit more digestible. John, any kind of thoughts on that client communication and then getting that client buy-in at all, about kind of that relationship with HMRC? Any insights there at all?
I think, mate, sounds like making it as easy as possible for your clients feels like a really sensible but generic thing to say. And I guess from our perspective, we've just really, again, considered that in our approach over the last few years, and really try to hone in on some features and functions. Like one thing I was just thinking then, which is if you got your clients to get a Metal bank account, for example, they could categorize their transactions in the Metal app rather than even going into FreeAgent, and then that will sync through and automatically categorize in FreeAgent. And we're then using the same categorization to help populate the MTD return. So there's opportunities with different software suppliers, such as FreeAgent, to do that type of thing, where perhaps you don't need to then introduce the full accounting software to the client. You can just introduce them to online banking, which probably feels a bit more normal and a bit more natural to some of those, because many clients will say, "I'm not very digital savvy," but they might be keeping an eye on their bank account already. I'm not saying all will, but some will. So there's features like that we've adopted, and I'm sure other vendors might be considering that as well. But those little wins, those little help points that could support you, your practice, and your clients.
Yeah, and I guess the nice thing there as well is that, like I say, we've still got time to be kind of drip feeding information or new processes to clients. It doesn't have to be one huge change overnight, which is really nice as well. So yeah, I love that. Now, kind of pivoting a little bit, I know we've spoken a lot about kind of the challenges of MTD and how we're going to get buy-in and all this quite stressful, stressful perspectives. But what about kind of value adds? Are there ways that practices can make more out of the opportunities that MTD has presented to them? So not just, I don't know, using it as a compliance procedure, but a way to add more services, for example. Andy, any thoughts there at all about those value adds?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, if we think back to when MTD for VAT came in, so effectively, as an overview, every quarter, a business had to submit the VAT electronically. So one of the things we did after that was, as a practice, say, well, right, effectively every quarter we've got like a mini set of accounts done for that client. So we've had to do the work anyway. So why don't we send the clients a kind of report, in plain English, that just on a couple of pages just summarizes what's been happening in their business for those few months, income, expenses, margins, that kind of thing. And just want to leave it at that and say, this is a summary, this is how you've been doing. Really, really focus on keeping it in plain English and not sending out tables of data. And that went down quite well because actually for very little extra effort, we've engaged with the client, we've given them some information, kind of educated them as to what's been going on in their business. In particular, margins are a big thing to kind of track and look at. So this is no different. So again, every quarter you're having to submit income and expense records to HMRC. And that is ultimately the idea of this. It's record, it's summary data submission as opposed to kind of transactional data. So whether you use FreeAgent to produce these reports or whether you use an add-on system to kind of go in and get the data and present it, that's obviously up to you. But that is where the value add lies as an accountant, because you can go to these clients and say, we've done your MTD submission. Here's a summary of what's been happening so you understand it, any questions, any further advice. And those are the clients that are going to hopefully stay with you. Those are the clients that are going to hopefully recommend you to their friends or other business within their networks, because not all accountants will do this. So if you can be one of the ones that kind of jumps on the opportunities, then I think that's a good thing for us as an industry. So yeah, it's with all these changes that there becomes opportunities. So there's an expression, isn't there, kind of out of chaos becomes opportunity, and I think that's very true with HMRC. They do like to kind of a big whirlwind of change. People view that kind of as slightly chaotic, but ultimately, once the dust settles, there is always opportunities for service providers. So it'd be a shame to miss those by kind of getting caught up in the panic of it all and actually saying, well, look, we've got to do these anyway. We've got to do these submissions. It's become, compliance. So how do we twist that and get some value from it? And personally, I think that's about using the data that you've already worked on to send out to the client in a really friendly way that just educates them as to how their business is performing.
Nice. And John, what do you think about that? Maybe a nice friendly software provider could do some help with those reports. What do you think?
Sounds like a great idea, Gem. Maybe the audience can watch this space. But yeah, that's the way we got to think as well, which is we're providing the tool to meet the compliance requirements, but then with that additional data that's then being processed sooner, what else can we help accountants and their clients do with that data? And I was chatting to somebody yesterday actually on this as well, which guess I'd on Andy's point as well, like some of these businesses sort of run their business through their bank account, and that's how they judge themselves, whereas there might be opportunities to talk about like, well, what debtors do they have, what creditors do they have, and sort of have more up-to-date information on that as well that the accountant can then can give some guidance and advice on too. So yeah, I think, as we said, yeah, it creates opportunity, and we're mindful of that, and we're looking at ways that we can support accountants and their clients and make the best use of that data as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stephen, any thoughts on that as well? That ability to give better tax advice, given the more information that you have, how will that impact your services going forward?
I think with the volume of information we're going to be getting, I think there's definitely some tax planning opportunities. Instead of someone turning up after their year's finished and there's no opportunity to do anything in that tax year, they've had a bumper year, they've made loads of profit, they haven't got the opportunity then to say, oh, well, you could have done a pension, you could have recommended if you needed new equipment, you buy that, get the capital allowances, get the tax deduction. Whereas where you're seeing that moving forward, you're building quarter one, quarter two, quarter three. At the end of quarter three, you're getting a good picture of what's going on in that client's year. And you can be saying, oh, it looks like you're having a good year. Have you thought about putting some money in a pension? Do you need any new equipment? And there's the sort of the tax planning as well, so that the client can see you're looking at their records and you're giving them recommendations on on the back of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. And I think as well, again, the tech that you use is going to be able to inform those decisions, right? The better tech that you have, then the easier that all of these processes become. So we don't have too many questions left, and I know that there's quite a lot of questions that have come in through the chat and the Q&A box. So I'm gonna pivot to those shortly. However, I would just like to ask kind of if there's kind of a practice out there, or if you were thinking about yourself in practice a while ago and you didn't know where to start with MTD, is there anywhere that you guys would recommend pointing them to? Anywhere that you would recommend as a good beginning point? Stephen, any insights into that?
There is lots of stuff out there on the internet. HMRC have produced a few good guides. But yeah, I mean, the first thing is be aware of what your responsibilities will be. And then the second thing is be aware of what clients it will affect. Because yeah, it's definitely a case of finding out what you need to do so that you can get processes in place to then go to the clients and say, I don't have a total solution for you, but we need to talk about these steps to get you from your Excel spreadsheet or your paper records to where you need to be in the next year. And we'll definitely be encouraging people, even if they're not going to sign up for the pilot from this April, we'll try to get everyone by a sort of June-ish time onto some sort of product so that they can at least have a couple of quarters where they're getting used to having a deadline to fill stuff up, even though it's not a mandatory one. It's just kind of get used to that idea of doing something on a quarterly basis rather than leave everything to the end.
Yeah, makes sense. Absolutely. Andy, any insights into that as well? Where would you start if you could start again?
I think I mean, as Stephen says, it's all sorts of information out there. I think for me, it's about finding a source of information that you like and trust. I mean, HMRC clearly is the source of the truth for all this information. So we, as accountants, we should be reading their publications in kind of keeping up to date. But I'd say also, for me, we use the FreeAgent partner resources a lot. So as a FreeAgent partner, regardless of how many clients you've got on the platform, you obviously have access to the partner resources section of the software. And we find that really valuable. So the articles that get posted by the team at FreeAgent are always really good. They're always really accurate. And you can, because they're regular, you kind of get, you get notified when a new article's up there. So you can keep an eye on it. I think what people need to be, what personally I would avoid is trying to read too much, because then you just get awash with information. It's about finding the right source of information that works for you and kind of sticking with it, really.
Yeah, very fair. I think that's right. And there is lots of great resources out there. There's lots of information, for example, like you say, through the FreeAgent practice portal, which is great. And we do try and make that information as accessible as possible for you and your clients. So yeah, thank you so much for pointing that out. And Jon, any insights into that from yourself as well? Thinking in particular about the relationship between technology and a practice. Any insights there into how you can make the most of that MTD approach and where to begin on that journey?
Yeah, I mean, lots of great insights there already. The other thing I was thinking is, if I was starting practice today, I'd probably also be thinking about in 2030, when all of my clients that are on £20,000 or higher turnover are adopting MTD for income tax, what do I want my processes to look like then? How would I want to be operating, and have like some clarity on that, and then use that as a framework for the decisions that you're making now. So does the software vendors that I'm looking at, will they help me take towards that sort of future vision that I want for my practice? Will, the processes and the client behaviors help with that as well, and sort of try and make corrective actions now, so that when you reach sort of 5-year timeline, you've moved towards being that practice that you sort of had hopes and dreams and aspirations of running. And yeah, in terms of the practical side of getting the information, then I think like have 3 or 4 trusted sources, as we've already said, and regular track the information coming from those.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I really like that idea of reverse engineering your kind of vision for your practice. You know, that's a really nice way of putting it. I would love to move on to some of the questions that we've seen come in, or at least topics. I've seen a lot of people talking about kind of bridging software and different software approaches to MTD. Now, I know that people are probably sick of hearing about AI, but when we're thinking about kind of selecting software and reviewing the software that you use, are there any kind of pieces of advice that you might have, Jon, for what that selection process looks like? I know we spoke about it a little bit already, but I'm thinking in particular for things like bridging software or value adds that are like AI that maybe aren't applicable to every practice. I would love to hear your thoughts on that if you have any.
Lots of thoughts. I think with bridging software, first of all, I'm sure it does have its place. And for anybody that's unsure of what bridging software is, I'm thinking about if you're using Excel is probably the prime example to manage your clients' records at the moment, or you're planning on doing that, then bridging software can be used alongside the Excel software to essentially connect the data in those cells to the right HMRC APIs, and then send the data correctly up to HMRC so that you can fulfill the MTD for income tax requirements using a generic or general Excel spreadsheet. I think I can see the advantage of that, right? We all probably got spreadsheets in our sort of workflows and systems that we've customized, and they're exactly the way that we want them to be. But I do have concerns around like the overall process and the opportunity to introduce error, and possibly even the cost as well. Like, I've not looked in this in any great detail, but there's still, bridging software is still commercial software, right? So you're going to have to pay for it, versus a process where you could perhaps take that step or two further and adopt accounting and bookkeeping software, and then implement that into a tech stack and build perhaps a more integrated, efficient, effective solution. The downside to that might be you remove some of the bespoke sort of aspect to your spreadsheet. You might have to find that you have to fit into how the software works a little bit. But I think once that is overcome, then I can really see the benefit of doing that personally, and having that sort of consistent approach. And you don't end up with sort of 100 slightly different spreadsheets because you've slightly customized it for each individual client. You've got that sort of consistency. In terms of AI, I think it's such a broad topic. There are so many opportunities with it. I'm really keen to see more about how we can use it to help help accountants become more efficient in their sort of client analysis. But I guess the note of caution is just think about the type of AI tool you're using and what your level of risk is in terms of putting your client data into that potentially, and whether you want to do that, and just I guess just proceed with caution. I think with that approach, don't be drawn in just to the efficiencies that you might gain. Think about the risk that you could have with that data ending up somewhere that you're not expecting it to be. I don't know.
No, I think that's a good point. And again, when you're thinking about what you said about looking to the future and kind of reverse engineering how you want your practice to be in the future, that's where something like bridging software, I suppose, can come into it. Is that something that you can see yourself using long term? Is there potentially better solutions out there? And similarly with AI, I think there's lots of really cool shiny toys on the market. Just consider if they're genuinely solving problems for you right now, is my advice as well. Stephen and Andy, I want to pivot to you guys a little bit. I can see some people in the chat saying, like maybe in the future we'll only take on clients who use accounting software. And we've just spoken a little bit about the kind of softwares that certain practices use. Are there certain expectations that you have of your clients when you take them on, especially ahead of MTD, of the kind of behavior and relationships that you'll expect them to have with you as a practice? Andy, I'll go to you first if you don't mind.
Yes and no. I think when we do take on new clients, it's always nice when they are familiar with kind of digital ways of working. I think that does help, makes our life easier. So they're familiar with the concept of kind of connecting up a bank account to software, or maybe capturing receipts on their phone, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But you don't always get that luxury, and I think as business owners ourselves, we have to have a conversation. Do we exclude those types of clients that won't adopt those roles, or do we just accept that those clients will need extra help? I think personally, I would be the latter. I would still accept clients that find it challenging to work in a digital way, but try and help them. And I think I don't want to. I think Jon made some really good points about the bridging software before. I think, for me, that solution is often put in place for clients that struggle to adopt the kind of full technology, because they can keep using their paper, they can keep using their spreadsheets, and it's like with us saying, "Well, don't worry, we can still work with you." I think that's a really that's a red flag for me. So I personally wouldn't engage in bridging software. I think. If you have got spreadsheet records and you have got paper records, you need to educate clients in taking the full step to an accounting solution, an accounting software solution, and not even giving them the option of bridging software, or even explaining what bridging software is. And some clients will need a bit more help on that journey, but I do think that we can do it as accountants. I think we've done it before with the VAT. And let's be honest, we're going to have to do it again with things like corporation tax, because the MTD journey is not stopping here. It's just this is the next release, the next kind of chapter for it. So personally, I'm not going to exclude clients that struggle to adopt the new ways of working, but I am going to have to find a way to help those clients. That's for sure. Whether it's more time for them, or better kind of resources and communication for them, I'm not sure yet, but they will be welcomed in the same way as other clients.
Makes sense. Anything to add to that, Stephen, at all?
No, I think Andy's right. You'd be not much of a business person to try and exclude a whole percentage of the market. There are going to be a lot of people out there that aren't on software, don't really like the idea of being on a software. So whether that is you just say to them, you deliver your records as usual, I will sort out the software bit for you, we just have to work out what fee that's going to be. Some people will probably go down that route and just say, I'll deliver my bag, you sort it out in the background and just charge me what you need to charge me. But yeah, I think there will also be everybody knows everything's on the way to digital. So unless you've got sort of an elder business owner that's looking to exit in the next year or two, I think most people will be open to using a full solution, because bridging software, it solves a now problem. And if I had someone that said to me, I only want to run my business for another 2 years and then I'm retiring, then I might say to them, bridging software maybe is okay for you. Let's just get you to where you need to be on your journey. There's no point starting a whole new thing for the sake of a year or two. But generally, I think most people will have to embrace that they will need to either be digital or pay their accountant to make them digital.
Yeah, makes sense. Great. And then I'm appreciative that we've not got much time left, but very last one, and this is going to be a contentious topic because I know that we could talk about this for hours probably, but any advice on pricing for MTD from any of you? Who's brave enough to take that topic on? Anyone got any insight into how you'll be approaching pricing for MTD, just in a couple of sentences even?
The only thing I would say on that, and I will keep it very brief, is try and price on value rather than time spent. Because I think as accountants, and I include myself in this, I'm always guilty of thinking, how long is it going to take me to do this piece of work? And therefore, what am I going to charge someone for it? Whereas actually, I think that a better way to approach it, which I'm going to try and do more of, is to look at the value that we're giving. So we are solving a problem in that they have to do 4 submissions a year. So in effect, they're going from 1 submission to 4. They have to do it digitally using approved software. And if they're going to come to me for that solution, then that service has a value to that client. And I think just try and price based on what that value is, rather than thinking, it's rather than 2 hours a year, it's 10 hours a year or whatever it might be. So value-based pricing is got to be the way forward for accountants, I think. It's a hard one to crack.
Of course, I mean, that's why I said we could talk about it probably for hours, but I guess in the same vein as well, the return on investment is not only the amount of money you're paying for a software or a service or whatever it is, but the amount of time you get back and the amount of, the amount of ease of use or whatever it is. Anyone else got any thoughts on that? Stephen and John, I feel like you both will, so please do share with us any thoughts on pricing for MTD.
I don't think you can, I don't think you can say to your clients, right, I've now got to touch it 4 times a year, I'm going to quadruple your price. And I think Andy's very right in, you have to look at what you are getting out of. If you want to build a long-term relationship with a client, then you don't go, I'm going to triple your price, because that might work for 1 year, but then they're going to go, hang on a minute, it's gone from a couple of £100 to a couple of £1,000. That doesn't sound fair. I'm going to move on. If you want to build a relationship with a client where you're their trusted advisor and they're just relying on you, then it might be that you have to take a hit short term, because we know it's going to be time consuming to get people onto these softwares. But I think it's worth the investment to then build a lasting relationship. And the easiest way to build your practice is for your clients to refer their friends to you. It's the cheapest way to build a practice, is getting referrals. So making sure you're looking after the client and just charging them what's fair, rather than sort of quadrupling their price, it is going to be key, I think.
Absolutely. I think that's very mindful. John, do you have anything to add at all?
I certainly wouldn't be as bold as to sort of speak about accountants and how they should be charging, because it's not my expertise.
But from the pricing of software point of view. Yeah,
I was going to say, in terms of the technology sector, then I've been through the period, seeing the transformational effect of moving from sort of one-off pricing to subscription charges. And so, I can remember the days where perhaps some accountants who are as old as me were sort of buying an annual update for their software of choice a year, whereas now everybody will pay a monthly subscription. And I think that does, that sort of that regular predictable revenue on from each customer has been really supportive and helpful to many technology firms. And so I would sort of encourage accountants to think about their pricing models and perhaps think, is this an opportunity to move to perhaps a monthly charge or a periodic charge and offer all of these services as a package, and whether that would be a sort of transformation that you could make alongside this, whether that be right for your practice, for your clients too.
Nice one. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I'm just going to launch a poll right now to close off our live panel, just about if you would like to find out more about FreeAgent, and if you would, then please go ahead and click yes, and we will make sure that one of our team will get in touch with you. I'll let that run for a few minutes, but whilst that is running, I just wanted to say appreciate you three for pivoting so well. I know that when we do these webinars for the audience members watching, we do kind of cover a range of topics, but because there's been so many questions coming today, that's changed a little bit. And yeah, thank you so much for all the insight. It's been really, really helpful. Before I dismiss you, I'm just going to go ahead and share the QR code to our accounting and bookkeeper community. If you've enjoyed the kind of chat that we've had today, all about MTD, this community is really excellent for anyone who is a partner of ours. It's run by ProNation. It's hosted on Facebook, and we do host, I think it's weekly or monthly calls with ProNation members so that you can find out a little bit more insight into the industry. Join the discussion, find out about new releases of product features and integrations a little bit early as well. And while that's helping everyone scanning, I suppose the last thing for you to say is thank you so much for joining us today, Jon, Stephen and Andy. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure that there's been more questions that have come in. So if there's a chance, then I will be happy to share those with you if you would like to share some insight into those as well. But yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
I will let you all turn your camera off and your microphone, unless you want to keep it on for our demo. But for everyone who's watching today, we're going to move on to our a demo of FreeAgent. So I'm just going to go on to that now. As I say, please do allow yourself to keep popping questions in. If you want to stick around for the webinar, then I will do my best to answer them. It's been a really busy webinar today, so we've not been able to get around to absolutely everything, and I'm sorry for that. However, if you'd like to stick around for the demo, then you absolutely can. And if you want to, afterwards, we will ask another poll about whether you want us to get in touch. So you can share your thoughts then as well. Give me 1 minute. I'm just going to open up FreeAgent demo. Cool. So I think you can all see that now. If you haven't seen FreeAgent before, then this is our lovely practice dashboard. We know we're in the practice dashboard because we've got a list of our clients, and you can see the switch to button at the side. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this practice dashboard today, but I am going to switch into the client side. Oops. Just timed out my session. There we go. Now we're in the client side. So this is what your client sees when you log into the app. I will point out that the mobile app is almost exactly the same as the desktop one, in that it has about 80% of the same features. So almost everything that you'd need is going to be there available on mobile as well as on the desktop. Brilliant if you're getting clients transitioning from kind of spreadsheets to digital. Having something on a mobile rather than having to log into a laptop is really helpful. So we can see from the overview, we've got our cash flow, a little mini P&L there. We've also got our tax timeline, which I believe is still unique to FreeAgent. And this is going to show all of your upcoming tax dates that you need to be aware of. So things like VAT returns due, etc. If I go along to the top, you've got this lovely button over here, add new, and we can add new projects, time slips, invoices, mileages, expenses, all of that kind of stuff. But today I'm just going to work along the top, and I'm going to show you our banking feature. So we spoke a little bit about AI today and how we use AI in this industry and what impact it might have on MTD. We actually have used AI in FreeAgent for many, many years through our guest functionality, which categorizes transactions that come in to your bank account in FreeAgent automatically. So what that will do is it will have a look at, for example, bed and breakfast Dublin. It knows through FreeAgent knows, that most other people categorize this particular place as accommodation and meals, and it also knows that you've done this transaction before and that that's what you do as well. So when it comes in, it's going to do that for you. It has a very high accuracy rate, and of course, as well, it's just improving that automation for your clients so they have to do less and less. Of course, you can turn those features off if you don't want to be able to categorize things automatically. We do use a traffic lighting system, so green for explained, red for unexplained, and purple for manually added transactions. And yeah, as I say, it's just a very intuitive solution and allows your clients to be able to can make the most of their time and not have to sit and categorize like every transaction that they ever look at. When we're thinking about MTD, we do also have functionality to be able to submit tax returns through FreeAgent. So self-assessments, VAT returns, etc., can all be done straight through FreeAgent. It's going to have a look at the pre-populated data that you have going into your FreeAgent software, and then it's going to fill out your VAT return for you. So, for example, if you're processing all of your invoices through FreeAgent, and maybe you've got an integration set up, so something like Dext is pulling in your receipt, or you're using our receipt capture functionality, then it's going to have a look at all of that, and then, like I say, speed up the process for all of your tax returns. And in terms of reporting, we do have a selection of reports available for you and your clients to be able to have a look at. Got all the usual suspects here: profit and loss, audit trail, bank rec, and we're working on some more as well, so stay tuned for that. And as I say, our community usually gets a little sneak peek at when those features are coming. So lastly, I'm just going to return to the practice dashboard. I appreciate this has been a whiz through, but we don't have loads of time today to show you everything in too much detail. But I would like to show you the practice portal because we did speak about it today. So thinking about our practice portal, that's it here. And this is going to be a great place for you and your practice to get some insight into what's going on in the industry, advice for future events and things like that. So we've got our roadshows coming up here. We've also got information for MTD over here on the Preparing for MTD hub, and much, much more. So I would highly recommend having a look at the practice portal. It's accessible from your dashboard if you haven't had a look at it already. I know a few people were asking about landlords as well, and how we handle landlords here at FreeAgent. We do have a specific landlord license, and we've recently updated the functionality there as well, so one to have a look at there. Appreciate that was quite a quick run through FreeAgent. However, I am just going to go ahead and launch one of our final polls today about whether you'd like a one-to-one consultation with a member of the FreeAgent team to discuss MTD. If you would, excuse me, if you would, please let us know by clicking yes, and then someone will get in touch and we can chat to you a little bit more about that. Other than that, if there's any last minute questions that you've got today, I'm having a look. There's some here that we haven't been able to answer, but we will put them to our team and we'll do our best to get an answer back to you if we can. I'm just trying to see if there's any that I can answer right now, and appreciate all of the chat that we've had going on today in the chat box. That's been really helpful, so thank you so much for that. And I think that's it. Appreciate everyone coming in today. That was been really great. And if you would like to chat to us, then go ahead and click on the poll before I close it. We've done just before lunch. Hope everyone has a lovely lunchtime, and we will see you next time. Thank you. Goodbye.